NBA talk as the playoffs are heating up. We haven't spoken to Jonathan Marshall. It seems like forever. He's all over the place, covering basketball, all over, going to L.A., back to Texas. But he's kind enough to join us for a couple moments on a Monday. What's going on, pal?
Q, I'll never be too big time for you, so just
I don't
never
know.
worry about that.
I don't know.
I went to Cali. Cali is beautiful, but I'm never going to forget my roots.
All right, that's we like to hear that. Nor should you. We like to hear that. Well, hey, let's get right into it. How about Golden State? I said this during the opening monologue. I watched the game the other day against the Trailblazers, and they just forget about outclassing them. And I know. Look, the score wasn't indicative of the contest. It was a 12-point margin of victory for Golden State. But I think QB Brown might have said it best during the broadcast. It doesn't matter who's out there. You're looking at from top to bottom guys that when they get minutes will score 15 to 20 points. I mean, have you seen a complete team over the last 10 to 15 years like the Warriors?
I really can't recall, and I think you hit it spot on. That's why it kind of, got to me when people, talking about the potential Clippers and Warriors matchup in this round, if they were to get past Portland and they were giving the Clippers the edge. But when you look at it, if you take away a Steph Curry from the Golden State Warriors, does their identity change? It doesn't. If you take a CP3 away from the Clippers, that's their entire identity. They're lost without a CP3. So as we're seeing now, even without a Steph Curry, they're still playing the same way. They're still spreading the ball around. They're still moving it around. They're still playing tough defense. They're still getting on the open. And they still have the top two guarding Klay Thompson. They still have an all-star in Draymond Green. They still have lottery picks in the likes of Harrison Barnes, Andre Iguodala. I mean, Sean Livingston was a lottery pick, even before the knee injury.
Yep.
So, I mean, he's a solid player. I think people forget how talented this roster is. And then you still have guys like Barbosa providing solid minutes. I mean, Maurice Bates, he's a name that Sixers fans know very well, I'm sure. He's providing solid minutes. So, I mean, this is a solid team regardless if Steph Curry's out or maybe if Klay Thompson's out. I mean, they're still going to play their same way. Their identity of team ball is not going to change. And having a Draymond Green out there still, having Klay Thompson out there still, two guys that most teams don't have, I mean, they're still the best team in the league right now, and they still are the team to beat. So as far as the depth that they're showing and just the team-oriented, style that we're seeing, I mean, it's something special to watch, and I'm enjoying it.
Look, Thompson gets you 37, Green gets you the triple-double, and then Barnes, Bogut, as we alluded to, the double-double, as you throw in Livingston as well, a guy who you mentioned coming off a lot of injuries throughout his career, but getting major minutes at 29 minutes yesterday, and he puts up 12. That kind of goes in or begs the question, okay, if you are Steve Kerr and you believe Steph Curry is healthy, do you still start him in game 2, or do you let him rest a little more and not risk it and not push it? I guess, let me ask you this. Does Portland have any shot of beating Golden State without Curry?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think they have enough.
Then be that okay. Then with that being said, why would you rush him back?
I wouldn't rush him back. Honestly, I mean, I would just let him rest as long as possible. You don't want to risk anything. The only way I would think to get him back is maybe getting him into that game rhythm, getting that rhythm back. But I mean, if you're Curry, you have to think. I mean, Steph is. You have to trust his skill sets and his work ethic. I'm pretty sure he's taking care of his body. He's taking care of his conditioning as much as he can. I would trust that. So I wouldn't take that chance. I would just get him ready for what's going to be a tough series. I'm thinking San Antonio is going to be the next opponent, and that's when you're going to really need Steph to be at his best. So it's no point in risking this. Portland doesn't have enough to compete against Golden State either way. So there's no need in risking or rushing Steph back.
What happened in the Thunder the other day? Because I'll tell you this, if they don't win tonight, they're getting swept. First of all, they've had a hard time beating the Spurs at the AT&T Center over the years. So I'm looking at this team right now. I think if they lose tonight, they get swept.
I would have to agree. And it just goes to show you, like, this is my one issue with OKC. I mean, when it comes down to it, their only strength is the one-on-one isolation ball with KD and Russell Westbrook. And that's going to get you past teams like a Dallas Mavericks squad or a Houston Rockets squad. But when you're playing against a disciplined style of team that, like you're seeing in San Antonio or Golden State, they're going to exploit that. And they're going to counter you with Not just one or two guys, but 3 and 4 and 5, 6, 7. These teams go deep, and they can attack you defensively and offensively. These players can go both ways. With OKC, looking at this roster, it's very weak outside of KD and Russell Westbrook. Serge Ibaka is a shell of himself. They're not getting anything from the two-spot position from Roberson. I mean, this team is very weak, and if KD and Westbrook are off, if San Antonio is shutting those guys down, who's the next man in OKC that's really going to be a threat? You don't have that, and I think that's the main issue with OKC. And I mean, it's unfortunate to say, but I mean, KD is out of here. This OKC squad, as we know, I think is pretty much over. I mean, their title chances, are dwindling, and if they don't win tonight, I would have to say it's definitely over. I mean, because you cannot go into Game 1 and get just destroyed like that. That can't happen. And what they showed on Saturday night, I have no confidence in this squad moving past the Spurs.
Well, first of all, they were rushing their shots in the first quarter. Everyone was playing selfish ball, and they found themselves down by 23 points. So you knew right there it was going to be a rout. I don't care that basketball's a game of runs. They were going to get their doors blown off, and they lost by 32. And, it's not surprising, but we talk about consistency in sports, the longevity of teams and dynasties and franchises. For 10-plus years, it was the big three in San Antonio, right? It was Parker, it was Duncan, it was Ginobili. Now, all of a sudden, okay, it's Aldridge, it's Leonard, it's Green. I mean, those are your players right now. Everyone else, you can argue Parker, Ginobili, borderline Hall of Famers, Duncan, roller skate into the Hall of Fame. But you're looking at three perennial all-stars over the years, right? All NBA players. They're aging vets right now. They take a back seat. They get some minutes here and there, and they're okay with that, and then San Antonio still rolls. I mean, that to me is a testament of that franchise.
I mean, it's beautiful what they've done. I mean, to be able to see the talents in a Kawhi Leonard and to be able to develop how he's developed into, one of the best two-way players, if not the best, definitely the best perimeter defender. I mean, his growth, he hasn't even scratched the surface, Q, of where he's going to be at. And LaMarcus, that was a savvy free agent move, showing up that post. And Danny Green, he dropped 18 on Saturday. He's the perimeter 3-and-D guy, which a lot of teams are searching for. He's at the top of that list. So, and you look at their bench, they've shored that up as well with guys like a Kyle Anderson, a young guy coming along. He's provided solid minutes. Patty Mills has been a solid guy. Boris Diaw, we can forget about him. He's a solid guy. So, the Spurs are showing themselves, and Golden State and San Antonio, it's the reason why they're the top two teams in the NBA. Front office-wise, they make right draft day decisions. They're great at evaluating talent and developing that talent, and they're great at making savvy free agent moves. Not just making big splashes just for the sake of the big names, but signing a Iguodala or signing a Boris Diaw, just adding on these nice complementary pieces that can add on to the trio that they have already. You're seeing that in both San Antonio and Golden State, so it's definitely something special to watch.
Jonathan Marshall joining us for a couple moments on a Monday edition of the warm-up, 31 past the 1 o'clock hour. You look at what the Cavs were able to do against the Pistons, just really taking care of business. Just sweeping them away. And now they set up the series against the Atlanta Hawks. And give the Hawks credit. I always thought the Hawks were a mentally soft team. I'll say this, though. When you look at how they kind of play lockdown defense as well, when you look at field goal percentage from their opposition, they are certainly they're a good team. And then conversely, you look at Cleveland, what they do defensively. They're not on the level of Atlanta. I think Atlanta defensively one of the best teams in the league. Now you've got Love starting to feel pretty good about himself. You got LeBron being LeBron. How does Atlanta pose any type of matchup problem here against Cleveland? If they're going to win the series, they have to play that lockdown D.
Oh yeah, I think the one advantage is in the front court with Paul Millsap and Al Horford. I don't like that matchup for the Cleveland with Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson. I think Paul Millsap and Al Horford, both those guys can stretch the defense out. We know the issues defensively that Kevin Love has. Tristan Thompson, $80 million to get a couple rebounds and score a few points. He's not going to give you much offensively, to be honest. So I love that matchup. Paul Millsap, went off one of those games against Boston, dropped 40. Al Horford certainly has the potential to drop 30 on any given night. So I think if those two guys can win those matchups in the front court, I think that gives Atlanta that much greater of a chance. And also the point guard situation. Kyrie, I love the way he played against Detroit. So if Jeff Teague and Dennis Schroeder can, offer different looks against Kyrie, locked down defensively on him, you have to slow him down because LeBron's going to get his. Let's just put that out there. We know that they don't have an answer for LeBron, but if Dennis Schroeder and Jeff Teague can play within themselves, be aggressive, that can sort of help their cause. But I'm looking at that front court matchup. I think Paul Millsap and Al Horford can really do some damage in this series.
The best thing that's happened in Cleveland, as crazy as it sounds, San Antonio just going about their business and Curry getting hurt. And I don't mean it from a basketball, the game within the game standpoint. I just mean, what have we been talking about, right? Everyone's talking about San Antonio destroying Thunder. Every other thing in the NBA is Curry, 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 Curry. And oh, by the way, then kind of sneaky, just kind of sneaking along are the Cleveland Cavaliers. So it's like, it's not that we're forgetting about them, but we're not talking about them as much, which is probably a good thing because when you start talking about them, it's typically dissension or distractions in that locker room.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a foregone conclusion that the winner of the Western Conference is going to be the champion, and I think Cleveland is going to use that as motivation. And I'm actually, I'm pleased with how they handled their series against Detroit. I mean, Detroit's a sneaky, a team on the rise with Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson. I mean, a talented roster. And for them to handle business really quickly and sweep those guys, I mean, you can say it's a 1 versus an 8, but, we've seen it over the years how, a 1 will maybe take a game off, take a night off or two, and just maybe lose a couple games or, 1 or 2 games in that opening round series. But, I mean, these guys, they handle business. And this was a pretty tough series. I mean, Detroit went at them. Reggie Jackson, he had a couple good nights. So to see Cleveland handle business and not get caught off guard and not have any locker room issues that we've heard about, I mean, they seem to be pretty focused, especially Kyrie Irving. I really like where he's at right now. So I think you're right. I think the fact that they're sort of under the radar and they're just handling business like they're supposed to, certainly something that, I've been wanting to see from Cleveland this year, and they showed me that against Detroit.
And as far as a team that didn't show you something in a Game 7, it was Charlotte. Look, that's a sign of a young team, right? You've got a team, you've got a team backs against the wall. Miami's the veteran team, the wounded animal. Pat Riley said it years ago with the Lakers. When you're a wounded animal and you're backed in a corner, what do? You come out fine. That's exactly what Miami did. I certainly think Charlotte's a team on the rise, but you look at the series now, Miami and Toronto, you've got the storylines within the storylines. First of all, what's the latest on Bosh? I mean, what are you hearing regarding Chris Bosh?
Well, I mean, there are definitely rumblings that he's itching to come back and play, which is understandable. I mean, you want to be out there with your guys in the playoffs, and you feel like you have a chance to maybe compete against the Cleveland. So, and Chris Bosh is, a competitive guy. I mean, he's a champion, so that's understandable. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, the doctors haven't cleared him to play yet. So if I'm Miami, I really look. This is a serious life situation. I mean, it's basketball. It's just a game. It's not life. So if you're Miami, if you're the doctors, I mean, I really can't see how you're going to rush this guy back. This isn't just something that's happened once. This is the second time he's had this situation. So at this point, if you're Miami, I really don't. I wouldn't trust putting him out there right now, just risking that.
And again, and I don't, again, when I say this, it might come out as harsh, but it's not as though, they can certainly use him, but it's not as though they can't win series without him, because they've shown that they can. When you look at the series against Toronto, as far as the matchups, I mean, again, I look at Miami, and Miami just seems to be the quicker team, but I'm looking at Toronto with their bigs. Toronto's got some players. I'm looking at guys like Winslow, Whiteside. These guys have to help Wade a little bit, right? They have to give him some production. And it just seems like even, something off the bench, because this can be a series where if they trip up, Toronto can beat them.
I agree. I mean, Toronto finally getting out of the first round. So, I mean, they're definitely elated about that. So you want to see how Toronto responds after that big celebration last night. But Miami, I mean, this is a veteran squad with D. Wade, Goran Dragic, Joe Johnson, Luol Deng. I think Miami is the better team. I mean, they have the better talent. I think Hassan Whiteside can dominate Bismack Biyombo and Valanciunas. I mean, so I'm not concerned about that. It's just, is his head going to be in the game? And I think Goran Dragic has to be big. Kyle Lowry struggled a little bit in the series against Indiana. So if Goran Dragic and Josh Richardson, the backup point guard, if they can step up, I think that would be huge. And we need Joe Johnson to be Joe Johnson. We need him to be that scorer. And Justice Winslow and those guys, they need to provide that energy off the bench, and I think Miami should be able to win this series.
Last one, got about 30 seconds. What's your thoughts on Steve Kerr winning the NBA Coach of the Year honors and really and not even a full season, not even half a season.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised. I mean, the best team in the league. You set a record with 73 wins. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion. I think Brad Stevens from Boston, personally, was my coach of the year. What he's done with that Boston squad this year is something amazing. And even Terry Stotts in Portland. Those two guys, off the top of my head, those are the top two guys for me. But not surprised about Steve Kerr winning that. There was no way they weren't going to give him that award. But I think Brad Stevens, in my book, is the coach of the year.
All right. Well done as always. Spot on analysis. Enjoy the games this week. We'll talk next week and appreciate it, pal.
All right. You take care.
All right. You got it, Jonathan Marshall.